So good afternoon, everyone. This time last year, we wouldn't have imagined, we're sitting here having a webinar through Zoom, but COVID-19 changed everything. Today, we face the most significant health challenge of our time. The COVID pandemic is the defining global health crisis and is the greatest challenge of our generation. It has exposed so many aspects of healthcare system, one of which is the shortage of medical professionals in Nigeria and globally. My name is Sadia Gumi. I'm a pediatric consultant working in the UK. It is my pleasure and my privilege on behalf of COVID Nigerian medics to welcome our guest speakers, panel members, and everyone here. We are delighted to have you with us to participate in our webinar series titled Transforming Healthcare Delivery in Nigeria. Today's topic focuses on the increasing number of doctors leaving Nigeria. We would like to know why this is happening, how can we help, and what are the consequences to our society. With us also is a colleague who had suffered from COVID as a patient. He's happy to share his experience. And finally, we really want to hear your views and comments on the topic discussed. Before we start, I will tell you briefly about COVID Nigerian medics. It was initially formed as a Facebook group for doctors and other healthcare professionals during the pandemic to support each other and share ideas. The group was able to achieve some short-term goals, such as the distribution of face shields and face masks across all the states and some local governments in Nigeria, especially those that had the high burden. However, it was evident from our discussion that there's an appetite to take things further. One of which is starting regular webinars to share ideas and motivate and guide further actions. We are working on developing a more permanent entity. For instance, one suggestion is to assist with a two-way exchange of postgraduate trainee doctors to the benefit of both, perhaps through linked universities in Nigeria and abroad, and through personal contacts in our group. Unfortunately, many have lost their lives as a result of this pandemic, and we are still not out of the woods. On a positive note, the COVID-19 situation throughout the world has made societies and institutions change the way they do things. For us, there are three key areas we can harness. The first is the pandemic has reset everyone's mindset on the importance of having a functioning healthcare system. Secondly, virtual conferencing like Zoom has come to stay, making communication much more easier. Most especially now, the most important thing is we've got healthcare professionals, both locally and in diaspora, going to work together, hopefully. And we should take this opportunity to ensure, we join in and support each other. I will now hand you over to our moderator, who after years spent studying medicine to become a doctor, then spent more years in order to drop the doctor title and become a Mister. He's a colorectal surgeon practicing in the UK and a patriotic Nigerian. Despite his busy schedule, he spent time doing, outreach surgical programs in Nigeria. So I would like to welcome Mr. Mukhtar Ahmed. Please take over, Mr. Mukhtar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sadia, very much for that introduction and the background to why we're here today. I'm particularly honored to be co-moderating this important webinar, particularly more so with my co-moderator, Dr. Aminu Magashi, who's the coordinator of the Africa Health Budget Network, and somebody who has been very active in efforts to raise the profile of public health and health awareness in Nigeria. So just before I introduce the speakers, I'm just going to give just a brief layout of how we hope it would work. So there's the main speaker, who I'll introduce shortly, who will speak for roughly about 15 minutes. And then we have three discussants, whom I will introduce as well shortly, who will speak for 5 minutes each. And then once we have had that, then we will have a brief summary of what the main speakers and the discussants have said. We will then proceed to listen to the survivor's experience, as Dr. Sadia mentioned, while we allow the our audience, who I can see we have 77 people at the moment. I've seen a message, somebody saying we can't hear me. For those who are unmuted, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
we can hear you.
Okay, if there's any concerns, please put them in the chat, because we are monitoring the chat as well. And then once we've done that, Dr. Aminu Magashi will summarize, the comments in the chat for us, so that we can. Yes, I'm seeing that again. We can't hear you. I'm not quite sure what the problem is. It might be networks in some places. And then we will then subsequently open the floor to questions from the audience. And then we will come back to summarize the issues and where we think we're going to go, from here. But we'll go through the items of the agenda again as we go on. So without wasting much more time, I'd like to introduce our main speaker today, and it's an absolute honor to introduce Dr. Jamil Ismail Ahmed, who is a consultant cardiothoracic surgeon at Amina Kano Teaching Hospital and a senior lecturer in Bahrain University, Kano. I've known him for a long time, and he is an absolutely brilliant mind, and someone who, despite having practiced and trained in Nigeria, has the vision of someone who has had the broader view of being in other environments, and is passionate about not just complaining about brain drain, but how we benefit from brain drain and converting it into a positive. So we would. I can't wait to listen to what he's got to say. Following his talk, we will listen to Dr. Olufemi Sani, who's a consultant psychiatrist in the UK. He's a classmate of mine, a friend for nearly 30 years. And he's also the CEO of Steno Memorial Foundation that does a lot of good work, focused mainly in the southwest of Nigeria. And we'll be interested in hearing his experience. Next to come up in discussion will be Dr. Ono Tuama, who's one of the steering group members of COVID Nigeria Medics. She's a hospitalist and a public health researcher in the US. And then finally, in the discussion section of the program, we've got Dr. Ebun Oluwaferomi, who is a specialty trainee in obstetrics and gynecology in the UK, currently based in Doncaster. And she will talk to us, in addition to the discussion, about her recent experience of relocating to the UK. So I'll hand over to Dr. Jamil.
Hello, thank you very much for the introduction. I hope you can hear me, please.
Okay. Yes, very well.
Yes. Good afternoon to most of the people, I'm sure, but some may be good morning and good evening, depending on where you are. Today we're going to discuss about a concept which is very, very important, and which will really form a bridge between those of us who are on the other divide and then the other colleagues who are also on the other divide, to see how we can benefit the system. We're discussing on an issue which is titled From Brain Drain, Brain Gain Theory to Brain Circulation Paradigm, Rethinking the Future of Healthcare Workforce in Nigeria. Manmohan Singh, the former Prime Minister of India, he said something in 2010 that today we in India are experiencing the benefits of the reverse flow of income, investment, and expertise from the global Indian diaspora. The problem of brain drain has been converted into the opportunity of brain gain. And I hope one day we will also have someone to quote as such. I'm going to discuss under the following outline. I will try to keep within the time. In 2015, there were about 250 million estimated total stocks of migrants in the world. High-skilled migrants are generally defined as those migrants who have acquired tertiary education. But again, there is some controversy between education and skills. You can have the tertiary education, but then you don't have the skills that is required. More than 75% of these high-skilled migrants chose to stay in Australia, Canada, UK, and US. Brain drain was coined in 1960s in Britain, after the massive migration of high-skilled migrants from Britain and other European countries towards the United States. And the WHO has estimated that there's a global shortage of healthcare workers of about more than 4 million. And Sub-Saharan Africa bear one of the highest brunt of that. Nigeria, it has an average population of 200 million, as you all know, and by 2050, it is expected that it may be either the third or the fourth most populous country in the world. And the healthcare system is pluralistic, private, public, and even the non-orthodox players. And the private sector plays a key role. We are currently, or we have been in epidemiological transition with preponderance of both communicable and non-communicable diseases. Unfortunately, the healthcare budget is abysmally low, 3.6% of the GDP, and the healthcare system is weak with a massive infrastructural problems as well as massive brain drain. In March 2020, the Ministry of Health gave some statistics that in Nigeria currently about 74,543 doctors are registered with the Medical and Dental Council. So this gives a total number of doctors for a population to be 36 per 100,000 population, 36.6. You can see the nurses, the midwives, and the pharmacists. This is the number of the health workers registered, not the health workers available. Now, if you look at the data, I want to critique it a little, you realize that it is estimated that averagely half of those doctors are the ones that are available on ground. Some are late, some few ones have internally drained, while some have externally drained. Now, so based on the WHO doctor-patient ratio, which I think we should have a different ratio for the developing countries, of 1 to 600, you realize that Nigeria requires about 300,000 doctors. And with the number available, then we have a deficit of about 260,000 physicians that are required. And for us to fill that gap, we need to be producing at least 10,000 doctors, retainable doctors in Nigeria for several years to come. Unfortunately, only about 3,000 doctors are being registered every year. And over the past 2 years, about 2,000 doctors have been applying for the certificate of good standing with a possible intent to also move out of the country. So next, you're having just 1,000. And because of all these problems, Nigerians move outside the country to seek for care. And about $1 billion is being spent annually on medical tourism. Now, when you look at the skilled migration discourse, there are so many terms. For example, you have brain abuse, brain desertification, brain drain, brain flight, brain waste, and so many things on the negative aspect of the whole discourse. Now, if you take brain waste, is when you have highly skilled migrant workers who cannot find employment appropriate to their skill or education, and at the end they will have to partake in some other jobs that are not appropriate to that. Now, brain drain is described the phenomenon of the immigration of highly qualified, talented professionals from one country to another, and as such is part of the broader process of uneven development. Now, on the positive consequences, because it's not only the negative aspect, you have also things like brain gain, accumulation of human capital in the destination country, and then if there is a reverse migration, then you can also have brain gain in the initial source country. Now, then we have also brain circulation, which was coined by Saxenian in 2006, when you have highly skilled migrants who move in and out of their host and home countries for business, work, and investment purposes. Now, the waves of Nigerian immigration can be traced to the pre-colonial era, when people moved in circular fashion to go for pilgrimage and other places.
If you're happy to if you're happy to come up next, Ebon, and talk while we wait for Dr. Jamil to rejoin us.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Do you want me to start now?
Yes, please. Yeah, if you're happy with that.
Hi, everyone. I'm so honored to be here because it's like I'm sharing the platform with my consultants and all that, and I'm really feeling to be here. My name is Ebon. I trained in Olabisi Onabanjo University. I did my internship at University College Hospital Ibadan, and then I proceeded to do my NYSB. For me, you know that phase when we get to in the last year of medical school and you're not so sure of what you want to do. Do I want to stay? Do I want to go? Because I had some of my seniors that were leaving then and people were sharing ideas. But I was still this very patriotic and I really wanted to stay and all. So yeah, I started internship and then it was an all new experience. It was just different. Remember that I finished from a state university, so I've had my share of the industrial actions and how things have been and all that. We ended up spending 10 years in school based on all the strikes and everything. And that was just, that is just the side of the story. And then I started house job. I saw the experience. I realized that we are trying our best, but I think we can as well just do more. But it just wasn't it. It was a phase where patients have to come into hospital, and if you don't have money to pay, you may not get the best because you need to buy your stuff. You need to, of course, we can rally around and give you tidbits, but it's not really the best. I did my medicine posting in neurology, and it was as painful as tetanus is still common in Nigeria, and then we have people coming in with tetanus, and you need to get to ITU as soon as possible. At times, there is no ITU bed space. At times, when we get the bed space, these people are not even buoyant enough to be able to pay to go into ITU. They just could not afford it. And all of these were shaping my perspective. And I think there's this thing with civil service in such a way that when you join, you have to, I think the first 3 months you're not paid because somebody needs to process you onto the system, and then you have to wait for 3 months to get a salary, and then you can't even go and leave the first day because that is just the way things are. And all of these things that is shaping my perspective, and I'm like, if I want to practice medicine, I think I want to do so in a supposedly saner climate. I just wanted to learn. I wanted to do the right thing, and I just wanted to be me, and I wanted to learn in a place where I feel I feel mentally safe to learn in that hemisphere. So I began this journey during my house job, and I started writing my exams, and I was still working and all. And by the time I did my youth service, I was like, okay, I think I've made up my mind. I'm just gonna go on this journey, and I started writing all the exams, and I passed and all. And for me, it's been a transition. I think this is my second year. This is towards the end of my second year. It's been a major transition. Having to, of course, we train in a different. It's medicine, but there are a lot of differences. So you will have to learn what it is to. You will have to learn the tidbits, the differences, and how to merge the whole thing. So it's really been an experience for me. And then at the point I had to choose the specialty I really wanted to do, and I had to sit down and then I had to consider my interest and things I would love to do. Right now, I'm an ST1. I'm a ST1 training, that's specialty training. It's my first year in training, and I think I resumed 3 weeks ago. So I'm in obstetrics and gynecology, and for me, I just know that if I tell people that if I'm in Nigeria, I'm 100% convinced I won't be doing obs and gynae in as much as I love obs and gynae, because I saw how it was, how the training was or is for my seniors when I was doing our job, and I knew how challenging it was. And I'm like, the job itself is challenging enough. I don't think I can cope in this system, and also considering what it is, even getting a slot and all that. So yes, I'm here today, and I don't know what the future holds. Am I coming back home? I would really love to come back home, because I did my youth service in it was a military hospital, and then so it was actually situated in the barracks, and I had a relationship with the secondary school there, and I was able to do some program mainly on health education and all. And I know how much we still need to. I know how much we still need to go in Nigeria, going back to the grassroots and seeing what we need to do. I really plan that, okay, intermittently in between, I'll probably will still be able to continue with this and then maybe come back have people, and then we can still organize this discourse, and then we get things rolling. But for me, it's been a major transition. The same way where when we are back in Nigeria, and our colleagues probably who studied out of the country have to come back, write their MDCN exam, and then have to join us, and they struggle, or probably trying to fit in the disparities. It's the same way it's been. But for me, I believe it's doable. I believe that following the transition, you just need to learn. And once you've learned, I'm meeting colleagues, and I'm meeting people here that have been here for a while, quite established. So it's not a limiting factor. But I'm glad to be part of this platform in such a way that I can see people, despite the fact that they've been here for a very long time, finding a way to give back to the community. I think that's just a summary of my presentation. And if anybody has any questions, I'm more than willing to answer at the end of the session.
Thank you, Abu, for sharing your personal experience. It's always, for those of us who are here, listening to somebody who's at the beginning of their journey is always nostalgic, because you're where I was 16 plus years ago, and where lots of people are. So very insightful. As I've seen, Femi has just noted on the chat, and I'm sure lots of people listening to us, we have almost 100 participants, will have lots of questions to ask, but we will save those for the question and answer session. So we'll go back to Dr. Jamil, who had some connection problems, but he's back with us now, and we can't wait to continue.
All right. Sorry, these are some of the challenges for that's, I'm sure, pushing a lot of people. Now, brain drain of health workers can be defined as the movement of health personnel in search of better standard of living, life quality, higher salaries, and access to advanced technology, and more stable political conditions in different places worldwide. The factors are divided into push factors that will push somebody outside. That is, those factors are in the source country, and then the pull factors that are pulling someone to the destination country. Things like poor remuneration, lack of residency placement, harsh economic situation, concern for the children's education and future, and poor exposure and training to use sophisticated medical equipment and worsening political conditions. The pull factors include things like higher remuneration, relaxed visa and incentivized visa processes for skilled labor, opportunities for training, political stability, and then better security. It depends. Everybody has different reasons for being pushed. Now, Africa bears the brunt of about 24% of the global burden of diseases, but only about 3% of the global health workers are residing in Africa, and only the 1% of the world financial resources spent is in Africa. Unfortunately, Moore Foundation estimated that African nations spend an average of $21,000 to $59,000 to train one doctor. And Nigeria, based on their estimate, had lost about $2 billion in training of doctors who ultimately are pulled into other countries to either train and then work there. And the UK has saved a huge amount of money because of the recruiting of doctors. I did an online survey. About 380 online survey questionnaires were distributed, with and 60% were residents, and about 30% were consultants. More than 80% were 5 years post MBBS, that is the first medical degree. And out of them, I tried to assess the issue of internal physicians' brain drain and then the external physicians' brain drain. Internal physicians' brain drain, you are a doctor working in Murtala Mohammed Specialist Hospital or in Ife, and then you just switch that today, I just want to switch and become a farmer and stop practicing. Or I want to go into import-export and stop practicing. That is internal physicians' brain drain. Only about 30% were willing to have the intention of internal drain. But about 2/3 of the physicians had the intention of external physicians' brain drain moving to another country. And the target career for those who want to internally drain, essentially 41% want to go into agribusiness. And then there are some other things. Now, for the skilled migration discourse, there's some skewed data because most of the respondents were in Kano. So about 33% of them are planning to migrate to Saudi. Then about 31% to UK, then United Arab Emirates, about 13% of them, and then it goes like that. I'm sure if it is done in other parts of the country, you may have different data. Most likely people may be moving towards the United States. There could be some reason. Now, what are the reasons for the intention? About 55% essentially were financial, economic reasons. The economy is bad and the remuneration is very poor. And then you have things with lack of exposure to sophisticated medical equipment. And then, surprisingly, issues of industrial disharmony. I was thinking that it would be one of the main reasons, but it was actually not too significant. And then what are the fears that they have concerns? One, they have concerns about inability to provide physical support to the parents that are going to leave or relatives. They're going to leave behind racism, xenophobia in the destination countries. And then issues of cultural integration are also some of the things. Based on the monthly remuneration at that time, which was around December 2019, January, more than half of the physicians received less than $1,000 per month. I'm sure now it will be maybe less than 500 because it's, and only about 10% receive more than $2,000 as monthly remuneration. I'm sure maybe 2% or less will be the ones who will be getting $2,000 because $2,000 will be getting to ₦1 million now. And 47.7% indicated that an increase of more than 300% in their monthly remuneration is what is the threshold for them to migrate, those who consider economy as the main reason. And 64% of them were thinking that if they have a way of getting, of expanding their income in Nigeria, then they might not migrate. Now, then there is issue of this return migration of highly skilled, that is the brain gain. There are some experiences like in India, in China, in Korea, they have experiences where, like, for example, in India, Bangalore and Hyderabad, they established them as IT global hubs, and many of the Indian IT guys and ladies moved back. The same thing in China. They did so many things, postdoctoral centers, research funds, universities, and then a lot of people also migrated back. Korea is the same thing. But all these things are not accidental. They're deliberate. There are things that were done on the ground for people to be attracted to be back. Now, I don't know. I may ask all the audience, is Nigeria ripe for the return migration now? I could remember during, I think in 2005, 2006, there was this thing that many people, some people even came back, but after some few months, many people were going back because the environment was not. Now consider this, in 2000, maybe you're working in this hostel, which is fairly a good setting compared to many places. Now you move to this place in 2000 and you stayed for 20 years. How many people are willing to come back to the same place? Because most things have not really changed from that time. Sometimes it have even worsened, but there are some improvements. Now that will call for the newer concept of the issue of brain circulation. In the brain circulation, the circular mobility of skilled labor across international boundaries. Now, the issue of saying, okay, people have left and people have to come back, it appears that it will take some time before people are really convinced that yes, the facilities are there, all the things that the push factors are no more there for them to be pulled back into the country. And if we continue that, we may take like a century without achieving anything. Now, the concept of brain circulation came on, and it is sounding to be more realistic. That yes, some people could stay outside, some people are staying inside, but we can collaborate and work together. Now there are some elements like issue of globalization. Now the world is no more a global village. It's more becoming like a global room. Everything, look at us now, some from US, from UK, from other places, we can now interact. So the interconnectedness because of globalization. And the issue of the barrier to movement, which is also now, you can actually access visa to some countries online, and then you don't have to, you can just move there. Boundaryless career. Dr. Ahmad, he works in UK, then he comes here and do some laparoscopic procedures. Dual citizenship. People have dual citizenship and they can easily move without much hassles. So all those things are elements for the brain. I put it in the proper perspective. This is the cycle of Willis. I'm sure you can remember all the names of the arteries and what have you. So if you look at it, the globalization, boundaryless barrier, and all those are the real elements which can be used. Now, there are some conditions which will favor brain circulation, like in terms of technology transfer, knowledge flow. You need to have a lot of things like research networking mechanisms, development of joint educational programs, which I think Dr. Sadia was just talking about that. Issue of human capital efficiency programs and capacity building of researchers who are in the source countries, like in Nigeria, in our perspective. Then there should be mutual appreciation of those who are outside, the excellence they have achieved, and then those who are also inside, the struggles that they suffer in terms of what they go through, so that there will be a mutual respect and mutual understanding, and then there will be an exchange of knowledge and transfer of skills and so many things. Now, the structural factors for brain circulation include the industrial structure. We need to have a networked, in our sense, we are talking about medical industry or the health industry. We need to have a networked industry. We can't be working in silos. There is what they call pilotitis. Everybody has his own pilot thing. You do it, then this one will also have his own. No, we need to be networked for us to be able to achieve. I talk about trust, learning, and then entrepreneurship. We know that the public challenges. So definitely there is really startups. The quality of financial infrastructure for startups is also very important. And then the state or the country has a role that it has to be very transparent. Brain circulation, it is not accidental, as I said, it's deliberate. Colin Powell said there are no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. So we need to really have the background so that it can work. We shouldn't think that it can just work like that. What are the requisites for brain circulation? Creating a transparent, enabling environment, solid health administrative policy foundation, workable and sincere healthcare financing. Most of our patients, they pay out of pocket. And now with the economic situation, in fact, I could remember even some 2 days ago, we have to contribute and pay for patients because they can't afford the services, and there is no financing system. So we need to have a workable healthcare financing system, improve healthcare spending by the government and the private sector, open healthcare stakeholders conference on teamwork, because we can't work in silos. I'm a doctor, you are a nurse, and then we cannot work together. We have to expand the NSIS services, and then we need to also have ease of doing business for healthcare startups and PPP project, public-private partnership. These proposed healthcare brain circulation programs can be done at the national level. We can do it, maybe we have from doctors or the health workers in UK, they can collaborate with the Nigerian Diaspora Commission, and then we have something at the national level. It could be at the state level. You are from Ogun State, you have contact with the governor or somebody close to the governor. We can collaborate with your center over there, and then with the state. It can work at the institutional level. For example, you have something at Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital, you have another thing, University of Manchester. We can collaborate in terms of exchange programs, in terms of research, in terms of the training can be virtual or physical, then at individual level. So that at any level, even if you cannot do it because of bureaucracy, you can do it at individual level. I can go to somewhere in Germany where we have a colleague there to go for some fellowship. And then he can also send some residents or some other people to come here. So with that, we can be able to do a lot. What are these things? They include knowledge transfer, which could be virtual or physical, skills transfer, different skills in medical aspect. And then one of the skills that a lot of doctors are deficient is the issue of entrepreneurship. And we can work together and develop a medical entrepreneurship program that people both across the divide can learn, can benefit, and then we can be able to establish a lot of entrepreneurship services, research collaboration, and as that. There are some paradigm shifts which we just have to know that they're inevitable. Medipreneurship. The medical training has no medipreneurship content in it. So at the end, what we are taught is more of empathy, selflessness, and at the end, it's difficult for us to run things like that. Remuneration also needs to be looked into. Look at the model. We can have a hybrid model where you can also have performance-based remuneration. Because when you have that, then the efficiency is much higher. Welfare packages, it's not only the money. They give you money now, they increase the salary, the dollar, the naira, the dollar goes up. Then you are back to square zero. Then you need to look at issue of housing, children's education, vehicles, then the payment models I talk about, then digital health is very important because we can have telehealth. We have doctors in the UK, we have doctors in the US, and they have a lot of skills and which we don't have here. They can be able to conduct clinics. Instead of Dr. Ahmad coming from UK to come, we can have a telehealth facility, and then he run a hospital, some care in Kibia, in Rono, and other places like that. So I think we have to leverage on the digital health component. Now, finally, I think we can look at this issue of replicating the American-Austrian Foundation. Last year, I was in Salzburg in Austria. I attended one of the fellowship in cardiac surgery, and they have this Austrian is by American-Austrian Foundation, which they look at medicine, culture, and media. And essentially, this is their mission. You can see the American-Austrian Foundation seeks to bridge the knowledge gap by providing qualified individuals with fellowships and postgraduate education. And the background is, in 1984, a group of Americans and Austrians interested in fostering closer relation between the US and Austria established this foundation. And it has grown from a bilateral initiative to a multilateral international institution. Partnering with NGOs, governments, and individuals. And by now, is providing training to a lot of people worldwide, globally. And I think when we look at this, we can actually think of replicating this in COVID Nigerian medics, and I'm sure we are going to achieve. We don't know where it will be in the next years to come. In conclusion, I will say the Nigerian healthcare space is faced with huge challenges, from infrastructural to equipment challenges, and the human resources is markedly inadequate, which is now being worsened with the massive health workers' brain drain. COVID-19 has further highlighted those deficits. And the traditional brain gain discourse is no longer tenable, and the concept of brain circulation now takes the center stage. COVID Nigerian medics has a role to play in this respect, and the time to start acting is now. Vijay Mahajan said something in a book he wrote, Africa Rising. He said, the African market is on the move. If you are not there or you are not invested there, it may not be too late to participate in the Africa's rise. As an old African proverb says, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. So I think the time is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jamil, and sorry for all the interruptions from the audience and from the network.
Yeah.
But I think we managed to capture the essence of what you said, and I'm sure Dr. Aminu Magashi will tell us from the summary of the chat later on that you have stimulated a very good discussion. Please, can I ask that if you're not speaking, that you mute your microphone, please, because there have been quite a few interruptions during this talk. If you're not speaking, please mute your microphone. Just to say, I'm conscious time is short, so I'm going to move on to the next speakers, and what we'll do is we'll do the summary together at the when we've had the two other presenters. So if I could ask Dr. Femi Sani to please to come up next and to react to what Dr. Jamil has had to say and to give us his insight in 5 minutes, please.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for being here. Dr. Jamila, that was very insightful and very rich presentation. Thank you for your... I said thank you very much, Dr. Jamil Ahmed, for that very insightful presentation. And everyone, thank you for being here. It's so encouraging to see that we've reached the maximum. I think it's 100 people that can be at a time. And I thank everyone for being here. I've made a note about the push and the pull, and it's so good to see that. And then from my own little experience, I can see that when people, the push factor is the most significant one in terms of healthcare worker moving out of Nigeria and African Africa. And there are so many factors. We know that people can move because of a standard of living. People can move because of enumeration. And another interesting thing was what Ebo actually talked about is about the system that we have in Nigeria as well, how enabling the system is, how supportive the system is. And we know that when we go into medical practice, we want to be at the best of our career. And then in an environment where you think you're not skilled up to that level, or the environment is not giving you that kind of opportunity, you tend to look for opportunity elsewhere. And that tends to be one of the factors that push. Again, is about security as well in our healthcare system and for our healthcare workers. In terms of solution, obviously, Dr. Ahmad has given us a lot of very positive ones, and then how we can work in collaboration with international organizations. I've put something down here as well in terms of telemedicine. He did that as well. And we know that the transfer in two ways help. Mukhtar, you and I have done some work together in our charitable work, and we appreciate our going back home and talking to people and trying to help them to understand that we can do things better and provide appropriate care for our people as help in our own little way. Also, I was looking through some articles and some information online and saw something being done in Arizona in America. Is a training program for ECHO, and this can be done via virtual training rather than being there. Mukta, in your own surgeon, you know that there are some surgical training that can be done using what's it called, IT equipment rather than you flying down to Nigeria all the time. You can put certain things in place and that can support people back home. I want to talk briefly directly to Ebu, and I'm so impressed that from the day one, she said she want to see how she will be able to take her skill back home and support the gap. And that's what we face. Giving back is the key. That's what we're doing in COVID Nigeria Medics, and that's what we've done. And that's what brought us to where we are now here as well, in trying to organize this webinar. And I think going forward, we've also looking into how we can do more, not just this presentation, doing something more tangible. Thank you, everyone. And I hope we'll continue to have a good progress, and Nigeria will be a better place for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Femi, and for your insight. And I can't commend you enough for the work that you do. This question of brain circulation is particularly apt for you as a psychiatrist, which you literally do all the time, and for all the work you do supporting colleagues back home and sharing knowledge. So we'll move on to Dr. Ono Tuama, who I introduced earlier. She's one of our co-members of the steering group, and she's going to give us her reaction in 5 minutes as well, and a perspective, I guess, from the United States. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed. I would like to first thank everyone for coming. We appreciate you and your time. Let's not stop here. We now know what the issues are. Dr. Jamil, that's great. Dr. Magashi, thank you so much. And Dr. Sani. And of course, Dr. Sadia, for being really the brain behind all this. So the American experience, as I talk to you today, the Nigerian Diasporan Commission, which is led by Honorable Abike Dabiri, is someone who is somewhat, I would say, invested in the diasporan community. But I think from a health perspective, I don't really see that health is being propagated. But it's very important because as I speak with you, some of the x-rays and radiological readings that I use, excuse me, in the hospitals are read by radiologists or who are physicians or radiological technicians in India. So what happens is at night when the American physicians or physicians in America are not available, these images are taken here and transmitted electronically to India. Of course, the time in India is, it's day, and those physicians will read it and then send the report back to the US. And when I see my report in maybe 2 hours, I'm reading a report that was done by someone in India. Now, how can we move forward from this in Nigeria? A couple of American physicians have really tried to participate in telemedicine. But from the American perspective, because of the legal implications, the tort reforms, and the malpractice insurance, I don't know what it is in the UK, but in the US, the malpractice insurance is very expensive. So this is why we need the government, for example. If we are going to be able to provide things like telemedicine, there are many things that we can do on this side to reduce that that drain, I would say, where you have Nigerians coming to the US and spending all this money and time to do things that can be electronically done. So one, we need the government to support. In India, there's the export-import policy that was put in place in the late 90s, early 2000s, which really helped them, like Dr. Jamil had earlier said, to create this gain. They have benefited. But again, it was something that was done by the government. It was an active participation. So we just don't need people talking about stuff. We need people to sit down and do things to encourage those of us also on this side to, to support our colleagues in Nigeria. Back to what Dr. Jamil said about working in silos. This is a major problem in Nigeria. Trust and just our attitude. We need to understand that we are partners in this. We're not trying to take business from anybody. Instead, we're trying to work for the betterment of the health system. So I think that Nigerian physicians need to understand that, and we need to come together, to trust ourselves and work together instead of working in separate projects. Before I wrap up, I'm going to quickly talk about the Emory University Institute for Workforce Development, of which I'm a faculty member. And it's a volunteer position. I'm just very passionate about diasporan community and giving back in Nigeria, because I really would rather be in Nigeria than being here. But hey, just like Dr. Ebun said, we all have our stories. Now, what is happening with the Africa CDC? So the African Union manages, I would say, heads the Africa CDC. And I did invite a couple of them, or I invited them to come. I hope they're here. So what they are trying to do is also it's in the same direction as this discussion and what Dr. Jamil said, where institutions should come together and encourage learning. It really can be virtual, where our colleagues in Nigeria don't have to leave if they don't want to leave. They can learn, they can get the expertise, they can contribute. And that's what's happening with the Africa CDC. So Emory University is providing a platform of international, somewhat like an international knowledge hub. And it's really focused on public health, health workers, just you name it, in Africa. So there's a lot of drive from Africa. And then you have people like me, for example, on the outside, who provide expertise and direction as well. So I think that if we have institutions in Nigeria that will partner with institutions like Emory University or the Africa CDC or the African Union is big. So I think in Nigeria, we need to do something more specific and more focused. In all that we have talked about, really, it's putting things into paper and getting it done. We know what the challenges are and we know what to do. I hope that we see you in our next webinar. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Honor, for your insight and for that perspective from the States. So we're running a bit behind schedule, largely because we had some technology issues and we had to swap between presentations, and we invariably lose a few minutes. But I think there's no doubt that it's time well spent. I'm just going to do, just within a minute, just a brief summary of what we think we've heard so far, just to stimulate the chats and the questions before we hand over to hear about our survivor story from Dr. Alhat Afegwa, who will tell us briefly about himself and what his experience is in 5 minutes, if possible. I know it doesn't do justice to what you've been through, but if you can keep it to 5 minutes, we'll be grateful. So just to say, from my understanding, I think Dr. Jamil was very concise, he was very clear. And from the few chats that I've seen, I have little doubt that everybody understood and grasped the magnitude of the problem and the possible opportunities that are presented in there of converting brain drain to brain gain, and the concept of brain circulation. You raised a very important question about whether Nigeria is ripe for return migration, which many of us in the diaspora ask this question. And it's one that you've opened, your talk has opened up lots of avenues. It's stimulated lots of thought processes. If we look at it purely in terms of what our current job descriptions are in the Western world, it is almost impossible for any of us to return to Nigeria as it is. I'll give you my example. I'm a robotic surgeon, a robotic colorectal surgeon. There's less than 100 registered, certified ones in the whole world, not just in the Western world, not just in the UK, right? So there is not a single operating robot in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, outside South Africa. Right. So there isn't anything. The majority of what I do, 50% of what I currently do, I can't do if I came back to Nigeria. But there are ways around that. It's not the only way to operate. There's other ways. And you don't actually physically have to relocate to share your knowledge. So that was interesting to hear. You talked about, there's no secrets to success. And often one of the things that those of us that go out to do outreach work and training in Nigeria often hear from people, and they say, it's difficult. This is not the UK. You can't do that in Nigeria. And there's no secrets to the success of the Western world. And indeed, there are lots of challenges in the West. And that important quote that you raised about the secrets of success being preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. It's so good. And you concluded talking about medipreneurship, encouraging physicians, doctors to get involved in starting their own health startups and their own businesses. And indeed, the CBN Intervention Fund recently, that came out as one avenue through which the government could help. You've talked about remuneration and digital health. Now, you talked about the push and pull factors, and remuneration, I was surprised, featured highly in that, because comparatively, compared to the cost of living, certainly in the UK, some would argue, there are some analysis that would show that actually doctors, it's very controversial, but doctors in Nigeria are potentially better paid than doctors in the UK compared to the cost of living. If you look at the overall cost of living, the headline sum sounds like a lot, but when you take out all the expenses of life here, it transpires it's not that much. And it's one of the things people discover when they come here. Unfortunately, some of the push factors that you've raised, such as racism, xenophobia, unfortunately do exist. And people that come here need to be aware that, it is not a land of milk and honey. It's a good place to live, largely in the Western world, because there are laws and there are protections, but there is no place like home. And I'm sure all of us that are here will absolutely echo that. Then we heard from Evelyn and her experience, which has really motivated a lot of people and reminded many of us of our own journey and how little has changed, unfortunately, about the situation back home in Nigeria, and indeed here, the experience coming here. Then we heard about Femi's experience, which I've already summarized and referred to, and about the connection. And there's a wide variability. Many of us go back and forth between here, where we're based around the world and Nigeria. And then we heard from Honor and her experience from the States, which, as we said, is the destination of choice for many people, particularly from the south of Nigeria. there's up to almost 100 of my own classmates out of 253 that live in the United States currently, which you can imagine how much a loss that is. So we'll move up to Dr. Dalhat, and while he's given his talk to us, Dr. Aminu Magashi has been monitoring the chat and will give us a summary of the comments that have been raised in the chat, and then we'll take questions after that. So over to you, Dr. Dalhat.
Oh, thank you. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to be here among the creme de la creme of medical profession. I'd like to share my ordeal with COVID-19. I am Dr. Dalhat Afegwa. I work with Federal Medical Center Azare here in northeastern Nigeria. I'm a member of West African College of Pediatricians. So I work here, and I happen to be one of the members of the COVID-19 response committee in the hospital. So we had several trainings with WHO on how to handle disease when we were preparing for the disease. Then on 21st of April, precisely, I started having what I would call it's not really painful sore throat, but irritation, like an allergy. So I didn't take it seriously. I was still doing my normal job, and even going for sport, I do badminton. So I was playing badminton that day. I noticed that I was having recurrent itching and making me sometimes even make that funny grunting sound just to clear the itch. So it went on like that for 2 days. I think on the third day, I started having, I woke up feeling unwell. I just told my wife, I'm not feeling fine today. I don't feel like I can go to work. She said, oh, come on, get up and bath. When you bath, and everything will be okay. So I bathed, I took breakfast and had Panadol. I felt better. I went to work. On getting to work, like 2 hours later, I had to go and meet my HOD to tell him I'm not feeling fine. I don't think I can work today. By that time, I started having headache, body ache, and nasal discharge, catarrh. So I told him I don't think I can work today, and I'm feeling unwell. I think I have maybe malaria with upper respiratory infection. He now started laughing that, are you sure you're not thinking about COVID? I said, well, it's back there. I said, oh, since it's there and we have all the equipment, that time we have not had any patients in the hospitals yet. But there was, we are very close to Kano. Kano was bubbling then with COVID. So people were going in and out of Kano even there. So he said, maybe I should go and talk to them so that they can screen me, just to get that off my mind so that I will remove that differential diagnosis off my mind. So I called them and book an appointment. By that same day, 2 o'clock on a Thursday, I had my screening done, screened for malaria. Then I started, the symptoms started getting was the headache, body ache, and general, very unwell. I lost appetite, I couldn't eat. So when the result of malaria parasite came was negative, they said they would not treat since it's not malaria. I said, well, this is not how we do it. Please give me anti-malaria. I think I have malaria. So they said, okay, is it between chloroquine and the normal ACT? I said, ACT. I'm not doing chloroquine because I itch a lot to chloroquine. So they gave me the ACT. Then and also gave me some antibiotics because of the cough. I also had cough, which was productive by the 4th day. So they gave me cefuroxime and said I should self-isolate until the result for COVID screening is out, and I should self-isolate at home. And while I was at home, that day was terrible. That's on the 3rd day was very terrible. The symptoms were bad. I was looking for a position of comfort where I could, lie down and just to reduce the body ache, the body pain. I couldn't get any. The whole of that day I don't want to say I cried, but I did. I think I did. I was crying. So after the medication of that day, the 4th day, I felt better. And I thought, this is malaria. I think I'm improving. The 4th day, which was on a Sunday, I even came out and said I want to start fasting. That moment was Ramadan. I started fasting, but as around 1 or 2 hours after we started the fasting, I realized that fever came back, headache, and body pain came back. I just called them in the hospital. I said, I'm getting worse. They now said I should come the following day. That was on a Monday for admission. I was admitted. By then, the loss of appetite, the lethargy, the body ache was worse. I was kept in a quarantine. There's a place where we were quarantined within the same hospital where I work. I was quarantined there with some other 2 or 3 people that we also had the same screening done that same day. So after we waited for, the anxiety of waiting for result to know what is COVID or not COVID was very much. It took like up to 94 days, the 4th day on a Tuesday night, the result came and they said I was COVID positive. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Is this COVID? Is this how it is? They now said I have to be moved to the isolation unit where we were one of the first set of people in the town. So we're admitted, we were transferred to the isolation unit. At the isolation unit, we started the real COVID, let me say management. I don't know, so I don't want to say treatment. That is becoming controversial now. Azithromycin, 500 milligram daily. I was also on chloroquine. No, I actually denied chloroquine. I also refused chloroquine because of the reaction I said I have. They gave me vitamin C and zinc. And after I was there for 7 days, my fever was still persistent. And I would say that I was the sickest person among all the admission, all the patients on admission that time. We were about 3 initially, we became 5, then 7. We're just growing like that in arithmetic progression. So I started complaining that my fever is still prolonged. I know that they say when the fever is prolonged for more than 1 week, complications are bound to appear. I was complaining. I said, well, maybe I should do the chloroquine. I said, well, this time I will take anything you give me. Bring the chloroquine. I don't mind the reaction. Bring me something to take care of the reaction. I think that was. So on the issue of treatment, we were placed in our center. We do azithromycin, chloroquine, vitamin C, and zinc. And I also say that, at the initial stage, the feeding was very great. The food was good, fruits and all. Let me just say balanced diet. But by the time the number started getting up to 60, it was something else. So we had to start organizing our own food sometime at that time. So that's essentially what happened. I was there for 17 days. Let me also say that my result came out, my family too was also screened. My wife turned out positive. My first son and my 3rd daughter were both positive. We're all positive. So we were all admitted in the same isolation center, and we had all this cocktail of drugs I just mentioned, and that's what we had. And after 10 days for them, 17 days for me, we were discharged, and we've been on follow-up since then. That's my ordeal with COVID, essentially.
Thank you very much, Dr. Al-Hatton. It's as you say, there is, it's not just surviving it, but the stigma associated with it, which is hard to understand. But as you said, it's multifaceted, not just having the problem, recovering from it, and then facing the consequences of having had it. So thank you very much, and I'm sure you'll see from the chats that the audience is grateful for you sharing your experience. To say with the question section, if people could use the hand raising function. So if you want to ask a question, please use the hand raising function, and we'll monitor it and ask people to speak. If you'd rather put the question in the chat, we're monitoring the chat, and we will pick up the question and put it to the relevant presenter. So I'll now hand over to Dr. Aminu Magashi to summarize what has been said so far in the chat, what the audience has been talking about.
Thank you, Dr. Mukhtar. I'm just showing the Word document. I hope you are seeing the screen. Okay, so I just picked this key information from the chat box to summarize some of the discussion ongoing on the chat box. We don't have much question from the chat box, but they are very useful information that I'll just read some of them. So we can see from the screen, somebody was saying, I'm very impressed with this insightful presentation, and I was sincerely looking forward to this for networking sake. Another one is emphasizing to share the PowerPoint presentation. So many of the over 100 participants at some point pointed out that they want to have the PowerPoint presentation and also the recording as well. So I'm sure the conveners will take note of this and maybe come back with a response on when to share and how to share the recording and the presentation. And somebody was mentioned that this is indeed very educative and timely to participate in this topical issue, where it heads glaringly due to COVID-19. I congratulate the organizers and also kudos to Dr. Jalil. So these are some of the information coming out, and also you can see at the last part something very interesting from the presenter. He mentioned that I hope that thank you all for the attention and responses, and I sincerely hope we'll come up with a strong project after the webinar. So this could mean anything, it could be many things, but I'm sure the organizers will see that this seminar has catalyzed a lot of interest about the brain circulation, creating collaboration between Nigerians in diaspora and Nigeria at home. So these are issues that I'm sure the conveners will definitely review and see what are the issues we need to strongly recommend to federal government, to state government, to policymakers, to philanthropists, to different associations of health workers, both in diaspora and Nigeria, to strengthen the collaboration. So lastly, also, just to say that I want to share a quick screen so that people will see the email. Please, all the participants, you can see the email of the steering committee of the COVID Nigeria Medics. Send an email note to covidnigeriamedics@gmail.com. Please write the email, and the organizers will email you after they have discussed the review, the draft presentation of Dr. Jamil, as well as the recording of the webinar. So please use this email to send us a note so that the secretariat of the steering committee could also communicate back to you with any necessary information. And also don't forget that we're also going to issue a communique maybe by tomorrow to share with the media and everybody through the Twitter handle, the Facebook group, the Instagram, and also issuing a press statement to the media in Nigeria and diaspora about the outcome of this seminar to strengthen the partnership between diaspora and the doctors at home and all the frontline health workers. So thank you very much, and I will turn you back to Dr. Mukhtar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aminu. Very detailed and, you know, as usual. Thank you very much for that summary. So there is one question that has been put by Abdul Karim Kabir. If you're doctor, apologies if I haven't used your title correctly. If you're a doctor, professor, my apologies. But the question to the presenters, and I'll open it to Dr. Jamil to start, and then the other discussants to take a view on it. Or if there are, I think I saw somebody in the participants who said they were in the health insurance sector. If they are, then please do feel free to speak up and answer the question. So the question is about the challenge of healthcare financing, and that whatever we do, unless we can sort out the issue of healthcare financing, that it is unlikely that whatever measures we take will be successful. And I think it is an important point. You know, he said such millions of Nigerians in need of high-end healthcare are largely unattended to, as most can't afford to pay off their pockets. You know, you could have taken those words out of my mouth. We were discussing in our steering group the other day, prior to in preparation for this meeting. And what you've said in your question is the reason I left Nigeria. You know, unlike many people who leave, you know, finances were not my motivation. I was completely heartbroken about watching people die because they couldn't afford to pay for healthcare. And I just couldn't see myself continuing in that system. So I took the ostrich approach, and I bailed out. The people who stayed back are the courageous ones. But if Dr. Jamil, do you want to talk to that? What your thoughts are about the question raised by Dr. Kabir?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, I think this is a very valid question and a comment that without proper healthcare financing, then a lot of the efforts, yes, because there are some situations where I have had patients, for example, there was a patient I always remember, she's late now, who has tetralogy of Fallot, but for them to even have the money to come to the clinic, it's quite a challenge. Sometimes we have to be the ones to contribute. So this is a patient you're talking that they should contribute like 2 million naira, 3 million naira to go for treatment. Now, a lot of patients, if you go for any program, maybe when you go for any outreach, you see a lot of patients with hernia, hydrocele, which are just some few amount of naira can sort out. But the problem is a huge challenge. A lot of people are going into financial catastrophes. Somebody comes, he has a problem, you sorted it out, then he goes in the village, he has already sold his farm and everything, the same thing in the cities. So actually the National Health Insurance Scheme need to be improved, and then a lot of things need to be covered also. And then there is really need for us to sit down with the policy makers and then try and arrive at something that will really help the patients to be able, because now it's not even the patients. If, for example, I need something that I need to spend 5 million naira, will I be able to afford it? Maybe only Dr. Mukhtar can afford that. So so it's a huge problem actually you raise, and I think COVID-19, the Nigerian medics should also look into that perspective.
Yeah, thank you very much. I can see some hands being raised now. I'll call on Dr. Usman Gwaram, who's a fellow surgeon. I think he heads the Trauma Center at National Hospital. Dr. Usman.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mukhtar. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Jamil, for that presentation. I can imagine how much effort went into getting the data for all of that, because I know there isn't a repository where you can get the information in one place. So it's really quite impressive. What I want to say is to put some of these things into perspective. Actually, we started the medical profession, especially in Nigeria, with the brain gain, because this thing was fashioned out of the UK system, and most of our trainers, Dr. Mukhtar Ahmed, that was in Ibadan, knows that almost everybody is inspired by those doctors that have been to, because those ones were more polished, they were more educated, they are more experienced, and then usually you get inspired by those individuals and you would like to get to that source and make sure that you have all this experience. And to be precise, to tell you a lot of things that we have, the medical development, because we are not responsible for it in any way in Africa here, sub-Saharan Africa. We get it second-hand from all of these individuals that act as middlemen for us to get all the medical development that is happening currently. A good example is Dr. Uman Bello was just telling me 2 days ago he was able to do a laparoscopic colectomy and get the tissue out of. This started his own enthusiasm after a training program that Dr. Mukhtar Ahmed organized for him, and then it inspired him, it made him a better person, what he's going to do. So a lot of time, after the initial hustle, for all the individuals that have been in those places, is actually more or less the most important thing, acting as a gateway for medical advancement in this country, because we are not responsible for any of the developments that happen. Rather, we are getting it second hand, and these individuals that are in the diaspora, they are feeling in that important junction of making sure medical advancement, we get it with as much less hassle possible. And it's quite appreciable that this reach out and this program is conducted. Like everybody else, I join others in congratulating you We would love to follow up on all the things. Thank you, Dr. Jamil, Dr. Mukhtar Ahmed, and all.
Thank you, Dr. Usman Garam, for your insight. So I can see Honor and Ayo, but I'll go to Ayo first because he's one of our guests. Ayo, if you can unmute your microphone, please, and speak. I can't see your surname, sorry, so I'm calling you by your first name.
Okay, my surname is Adene.
Oh, wow. Is it the same one that I know?
Yes, the same one. Dr. Mukhtar, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for a very great, very necessary forum. Three things struck me, and I want to speak briefly to each of them. One is a deep dive into the data. At the beginning of the entire presentation, it was referred to that Nigeria spends about slightly above 3% of its budget on health. And that in itself already feels like, it feels bad. But I think it can feel worse. And I think it's necessary for it to feel worse so that we can have the necessary type of urgency that we need to have to begin to respond. So diving deep into the data, the 3% there includes a recurrent expenditure of about 85% proportion. In other words, most of that 3% is not spent to actually improve the health sector, to improve the health system. It's spent to pay salaries to health workers in the public sector. So if that is 85% of spending, then it means that less than 1% is actually being spent out of Nigeria's budget on health. Now, that is worse, but it can get even worse. If you dive deep into that 1% and you account for things like very well documented corruption in the health sector. For example, in the past 5 years, we've paid back millions of dollars to the Global Fund and Gavi for embezzling funds that were given to us. And also, within that less than 1% is the fact that much of that contribution actually comes from foreign donors who invest in Nigeria's health sector. So the summary of that 3% is that Nigeria, if you said that Nigeria spends nothing on health, you would not be wrong. So that is the sense of urgency we need to have. That also question you raised just now about health financing. So health financing is a problem, and the solution to health financing is political. Which leads to the other point that I would like to make. I've heard about people discussing the possibility of returning and how to bridge the gap through brain circulation and all of that. But I think at some point, those of us who are professionals and who are the middle class and who are working in diaspora and so on and so forth need to take the next step to actually physically return to Nigeria. But we're not going to return empty-handed or return on a whim because we feel like returning. We're going to return after we have considered the severity of the situation and we have developed strategies as a collective group to intervene politically and socially. Because until we actually have a hands-on intervention in which we are not just advising policymakers, but ourselves making policy, these things that we're discussing are going to continue for the next several decades. So that's my contribution.
Thank you, Aaron. It's really good to hear from you, and very incisive as usual. And you're absolutely right about those strategies. And you know, one of my uncles once said to me that that Nigeria punishes anybody who returns out of patriotism. But he said, don't misconstrue what I've said. He said, I'm not saying you shouldn't return, that any return to Nigeria of someone who's acquired skills is patriotic. But don't return just because you think it's your duty to return. Return because you have something to contribute and a plan that you want to implement, which is essentially sort of what you're saying. Come back with a strategy. Don't just come back and say, here I am, because you'll find you might find an unpleasant surprise if you just turn up without a plan. So let's see. So if you've spoken and you haven't got anything more to say, please lower your hand so we know to call up the next ones. We're running quite behind, so I'm just going to take those that have raised their hands at the moment and probably no more. So we will go to and while we're doing this, you'll see that Dr. Aminu Magashi has helpfully put up the banner of our next program, which is likely to be on the 2nd of September, the second part of this webinar. with the title Epidemic and Pandemic Preparedness and Response. What does the future look like in Nigeria? And we will update with the speakers, and it's got quite interesting speakers, coming up. So we'll go to, if we take Honor's comment, question.
Yeah, thank you so much. The last speaker, I think, answered most of the question. Well, the comment I wanted to really make, which is to say that I did work as in HMO industry, and I studied health financing as well in my MPH at Emory. And I think, like the last speaker said, our health budget has to increase, period. COVID has taught us, and if the government cannot learn, then I don't know how we can really move forward from this. Our budget in health has to increase. And in terms of health financing in Nigeria, to answer the question to the person who posted that long question, in Nigeria, I can only see some sort of a national health insurance scheme or a public health system, public financing system that will go hand in hand with some sort of private health management scheme. I think that's the only thing that can really work in Nigeria, because don't forget that health insurance or HMOs go in line with employment. So when employment is a problem, then those who are unemployed need government funding. In the US, the health system is broken, very broken. However, they have marketed it so much. They have electricity, they have technology, that you have people coming from different parts of the world to come to the US. But the US health system is broken. However, they marketed it in a way that is different. And health access in the US is a right in terms of, when I mean a right, legally, nobody can deny care in the emergency room. So those people who cannot afford care go to the emergency room to get care. And from there, they either continue to get care or they lose care. In Nigeria, we don't have a system like that, where the first access is legally, compulsory, where when you go to a hospital, you are denied care. So I think something like that in Nigeria will help those who have no income, at least, to first get care, and then, the system can help them for that. Thank you all. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Honor. So we'll go to Dr. Muhammad Sani Umar, and then it'll be Aminu Yusuf at the end. Dr. Muhammad Sani Umar, if you could.
So good afternoon all. My contribution is, first and foremost, I would like to congratulate all the organizers of this program, and it is very insightful and educative. From the presentation, Dr. Jamil made mention of medipreneurship. I think it's a very welcome development, because with the COVID-19, I'm aware that the federal government have made available about 50 billion naira, 500 billion naira to support health sector. Most of our doctors, in conjunction with our colleagues in the diaspora, can come up with state-of-the-art health facilities or centers, whereby our colleagues who are here, they can learn a lot, have an exchange in terms of knowledge, just as he has discussed in the brain circulation and things like that. So let us see as much as possible how we can grab that opportunity. For those of us that are in private sector or in public sector, let us try and see it's a CBN intervention, which is it's interest-free. So I would like to call on colleagues, let us visit that and see how we can benefit and perhaps improve our health system. Thank you, and over.
Thank you very much for your contribution. The final question goes to Aminu Yusuf. If you can unmute your mic, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mukhtar, Dr. Jamil, and all the presenters. It was a very interesting topic and discussion that has gone on. Mine is just a short suggestion. Based on the presentation and then the need for collaboration between diaspora and the local Nigerian physicians, I want to stress the importance of information and data. Just like Dr. Jamil's presentation was very lively, rich in data. There isn't a single database, if I'm not aware of, in Nigeria, where you have expertise and skills and the number of physicians and their skills and their area of expertise available in Nigeria. If there is, it's not widely available. People are not aware of it. Most of the times in my WhatsApp group, in my class mate groups, you find people asking of where can I get a colorectal surgeon, where can I get a gastroenterologist, where can I get to refer a patient. So I think one of the important things that this project or this collaboration needs to establish is to get a database or create a database or a catalog of all the physicians in Nigeria with their areas of expertise, their skills, and probably the setting they are practicing, whether public or private. And then this will give information about what gaps need to be filled. And if there is need for collaboration within Nigeria between centers, then you could easily access that information and get information about where can you get skill in Nigeria. And then this will also inform where the diaspora physicians can come in to assist in developing which areas need to be developed. And there is complete disconnect somehow between the public and private sector in Nigeria. You have many skills and experts working in the private sector, but the public sector isn't aware of it. So I'm going to suggest to the presenter, to the organizers of this collaboration, the need to create a database of experts in Nigeria with their skills, and then try to see where the diaspora people can assist and fill in the gaps. Thank you very much once more for the opportunity to speak, and thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amini. So you've led me straight onto our action plan. And sorry if we've left anybody out of the questions, but we are running. We're going to try to keep budgeted or targeted 1.5 hours, and we've gone just a bit over that in terms of when we actually logged in. So what you've said, I'll start straight up with, of a catalog. And you mentioned, and in fact, Dr. Jamil mentioned mutual recognition as something that was important. I remember I was interviewed once, about the start of the COVID thing on Channels TV, and they asked, what my thoughts were about the government's plans to bring in doctors from China and other places to help with the COVID situation. And my response was, I don't see any need to import anybody from anywhere. Our doctors are highly skilled, and they work in situations that I couldn't even think of working currently. They're very innovative, do a lot with very little. And it surprised me how many messages I got, a lot from my classmates and many people that I know, doctors, saying thank you for not talking us down. And that taught me an important lesson, that we're not fountains of wisdom, those of us that have found ourselves outside Nigeria. We just are opportune to be in a different system. And the foundation for all of it is mutual recognition. And what you've actually said there about, creating a database is exactly one of the things that we are considering in our next steps as we morph from an organization focused on COVID to an organization looking at how we can bolster the health workforce in Nigeria, is to exactly match the two together, create a database of people in Nigeria, health professionals who are looking to partner with those of us that are outside Nigeria, and likewise create a shared database that includes those of us outside who are looking to network and to match those skills together. You pointed to the example of a colorectal surgeon, which is what I am. Lots of people ask questions about different specialties, some subspecialty in pediatrics, somebody's looking for pediatric cardiologist, somebody's looking for this. And that network is exactly what we need. Sometimes the skills exist in Nigeria, but the networking isn't there, or the information is missing. So watch out for this space. I don't want to take a lot of your time. we will take the next steps, and we encourage you to follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, to see where we go from here. I'm going to ask Dr. Amina Magashi to just briefly give us the highlights or how we're going to share the communique from here before we close.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mukhtar and everybody. So we hope to develop the communique by tomorrow, and all is been equal by Friday morning. We hope to, after the steering committee has reviewed and sign up, so we drop the communique on the Facebook page of the COVID Nigeria Medics, which I'm sure many of you are members. If you are not a member yet, please search for the COVID Nigeria Medics on Facebook and click for membership. You will be approved by the administrators. So we'll drop the communique there. And we also have a Twitter handle, COVID Nigeria Medics. You can also search for it and follow us. We'll follow you back as well. We also have the Instagram handle, also the same name, COVID Nigeria Medics. You can also search and follow us. We'll also follow you back. So we'll drop the communique in this social media platform, and of course also in many WhatsApp groups that we are members. And also at the same time, we'll use our own personal handles to promote the communique. This is one step. Then we'll also engage the media. So we're not only sharing with our colleagues, we'll also use this communique to engage the media, both online, print, radio, and television, for those who are interested to amplify the messages. A lot of powerful recommendations and suggestions have come out of this conversation. We don't want to only make it only talking, but also working on the issue and moving the agenda forward in Nigeria, engaging with the Diasporan Commission that Dr. Ona mentioned, sharing with the Minister of Health, Minister of Finance, the CBN, and everybody in Nigeria. So the media will help us to amplify these messages. We have a lot of relationship, very good one with the media. So we share with them and we encourage them to promote this. So please stay tuned on all this platform. Once the steering committee sign up, you will begin to see the communique. And also the next step, as somebody mentioned, so that the COVID Nigeria Medics as the convener of this conversation will also begin to channel how some of this recommendation could be implemented. Issue of database of diaspora doctors, medics, and also the local community, and so many other recommendations that came out from this discussion. Thank you, Dr. Mukhtar. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Aminu, for that very good summary about next steps with the communique and how we proceed from here. So in closing now, I'll hand over to our convener, Dr. Sadia Gumi, to formally thank our participants today for joining us.
So thank you all. I would say today, all I can say is, wow, it was insightful, it was interesting, it was thought-provoking. I need to say a really big thank you to Dr. Jamil for a very good presentation, very interesting, thank you very much. And also all the people that have been on the panel, Ona, Femi, Dalhad, Ebun, it was all great listening to you guys. And all the people that also attended this webinar and contributed, you were really, really grateful. And most especially with Aminu and Mukhtar, you did a really good job. So we hope we'll see you guys in our next webinar, hopefully on the 2nd of September. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
If you want to wave your hand, you can show your video, wave hand, that's fine. Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you all. Yeah.